Hello, welcome to Cup of Tea, where a Scotsman and an Englishman discuss West Ham United. What could go wrong when a Scotsman and an Englishman discuss West Ham United? Well, it depends what station you're on, I guess.
I think he might be a Welshman, actually, mate. Was he not born in Cardiff?
I don't know. He sounds Scottish. I'm taking that.
No, I mean.
Oh
Sullivan.
yeah, well he is, isn't he? Yeah, I forgot about that. I'll just pretend he's English.
Yeah, leave the English out of this, young man. We have nothing to do with the shambles in TalkSport or West Ham United.
Let me pretend he's English just for the sake of the video, alright? Anyway, how you doing?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I was thinking earlier, how do we talk about COVID for an hour? How do we talk about 3 positive tests for an hour? We've got the questions from the viewers, and then you text me saying you need to listen to what Sullivan's chatting about on TalkSport. We've had a little listen of the clip, 9 minutes long. If you haven't had a listen, we'll put it in the description where you can listen to an unedited version of it. And I don't even know where to start with it. It's that bad. I'm not even where to start.
Okay, right. So let's go with what happened. So I messaged you. I said Sullivan's talking on TalkSport, and really we've been waiting for a long time for him to make an announcement. I wanted him to make an announcement. He didn't actually address any of the points I wanted him to speak about, but he came out and he spoke. So you listened to it. What was the first thing you thought then?
I thought he was throwing Moyes under the bus. That's the first thing. Up until now, if anything, he's provided me with clarity to an extent, because up until now I always thought, who is slowing down proceedings here? Because Moyes is known from Everton as dithering Dave for taking ages. We all know Sullivan likes to buy players, and this is why I struggled a little bit to fully blame David Sullivan up until today. Because I always thought Sullivan loves negotiating. Sullivan loves buying players. It's his favourite thing. So for us to buy nobody, I thought, well, I'm not sure it is Sullivan's fault. Like, it must be the fact that Moyes was taking ages to decide on players. An ex-West Ham employee, because I think ex-West Ham employee is really good, it said David Moyes is still doing his due diligence, and this was last week's show. I was sort of swaying towards blaming Moyes. What David Sullivan's done has provided clarity for me, which is they're both to blame. Or actually, no, I think Moyes is right to go for what he's going for. David Sullivan's to blame. He's very much tried to blame David Moyes and actually blamed himself in a way. It was just a PR disaster from start to finish. But that's the first thing I thought of. He was trying to hang David Moyes out to dry.
Yeah, well, there was something. I always find the way people speak and the words they choose to use very, very interesting. And he kept on repeating himself. And what he was saying was, I can't go out and just buy the players for David Moyes. Well, okay, nobody expects you to, but there you go, you've said it. Then he said it again. Then he said it again. Maybe someone will go through and listen to it. I think he said it 3, 4, 5 times. I can go out and buy players tomorrow, but I can't go and buy players for the manager. The manager has to choose the player. Well, yes, we know this. Why are you stating the obvious? And it's as if what my understanding of the situation is, Moyes has identified, 3 to 5 players, and we said to Sullivan, these are the ones I want. Please go and get them. Now, I know for as close as to be a fact, as bear in mind I can't verify, but as I understand it, Moyes was offered a South American attacker last week. And Moyes said, no, I don't want that guy. You have my list. Can we please go and get one of these? So I do think he was being thrown under the bus. Also thought he was throwing Pellegrini under the bus, which we'll cover in a little bit. He's throwing everybody under the bus. It was almost as if he was saying that David Sullivan was saying, well, you know, I was responsible for Bobby Moore and Jeff Hurst and Trevor Brooking coming in. And Pellegrini was sort of responsible for Marco Boogers and Joey Beecham and Freddie Ljungberg. And it was a bit like that. You thought, all right, come on, mate. You know, you're going a little bit too far here. But I was watching it and I was listening to what was going on. And I just thought, why are you repeating yourself? The manager has asked for something. And I can only compare it to this. It's a bit like you owning a company and you saying to the manager of your IT department, what do you need to do better next year? And the manager of the IT department saying, well, I need new, faster broadband and I want to replace all the old Windows IBM stuff with Apple Macs. That's what I need. And then the owner turning around and saying, well, just saying to everybody, well, I've not got it done yet. I can't just give him iPads, I can't. Well, we know that. Why haven't you got him the new computers that he's asked for? And it's like that. And it's like Sullivan's constantly trying to fob him off with old, with old second-hand goods that he doesn't want. And I think this is a really, really weird situation that's happening here. And it's almost like he was justifying and protesting a little bit too much, repeating himself.
Yeah, I think he's done himself more harm than good going on there. I think he went on to blame David Moyes and ended up blaming Moyes so much. He almost started with pointing the finger at Moyes and ended up pointing back at himself a little bit. He was trying to say, I can bring in players tomorrow if the manager lets me. He was trying to say that. But what we were hearing was, I'm trying to bring in players the manager doesn't want tomorrow, but the manager won't let me. And actually, well, Moyes comes out the better of this. Sullivan's made us aware that Moyes wants these players. He doesn't want players for the sake of it. He only wants players that is going to get into the starting 11, that's going to improve the team, and that's all he wants. Specific players. And David Sullivan's almost trying to encourage the scattergun approach, which is, I can't afford those ones, so you're just going to have to put up with these ones. But what Sullivan doesn't understand is this is why we're in the mess we're in, because we've always had this policy. We're always left with players the manager don't want. They're stuck in the squad. We can't get rid of them because the manager doesn't want them. You want them. The best thing to happen would be David Sullivan's just the manager as well. He might as well just get rid of Moyes, bring in the players he wants, then just manage the squad he wants. At least it's then his team. It's just bonkers, really. When you listen to it, oh, Dave, mate, what are you doing? Just shushed. And he just kept giving away information. He kept contradicting himself. And I just thought, this is just a nightmare. And the worst thing is, Jim White gave him the easiest questions in the world, and Sullivan still managed to balls up. How he's managed to balls up that, I have no idea. If he was to get a proper grilling, the amount of contradictions that would come out of it would just be incredible. You'd be able to sit there and the more you let him talk, the more he just... I don't want to say the lies come out. It's not lies. He's just telling the truth, but it's his version, and it doesn't really. He does not look good in this at all. I don't understand what he's done today. I don't get it.
The truth is bad, and the truth is bad enough because he's in a situation of his own making. Just out of interest, actually, did you get the impression he was trying to talk himself and everybody else out of Tarkowski?
Yeah. Too expensive.
Yeah, you can't spend that money on a 28 million on a 28-year-old defender, and I thought, crikey, mate. It's amazing. I've wanted him to speak up for quite a long time, and I ended up thinking, put a sock in it. And when Jim White finished up by saying, "Okay, have you got any sort of final message for the West Ham fans to let them know what a great owner you are?" Words to that effect. I might have one word slightly wrong, but that's pretty much what he said at the end. I thought, what?
He said. Have you got anything to say to the fans to prove that you're a good owner or something? Prove something you're like one of the best owners or something like that.
Yeah. It was something like that. What on earth is that?
You still couldn't come up with a good answer.
Well, no, but he damned. I think he spent the whole interview suggesting that his decisions have been right, that he did what the fans wanted, and then at the end, just a sort of little damns everything with faint praise, and in passing mentions, well, look, we all get some things right and some things wrong, as if I think he thinks that made him sound humble. It didn't, because what you've done for the past 8 minutes and 30 seconds is really blow your own trumpet, so to speak. And I found the whole thing about Pellegrini was bad. We're lucky in what we do, okay? We're really lucky in what we do because we get to archive. Everything that we do is archived. So if I turn around and I've said Thomas Souček, I think he'll score 10 goals this season, right? It's easy enough next season for somebody to turn around and say, you said 10 goals last season, right? Come back and check it. Okay, yeah, I did. Hands up. For him to make out that all the fans wanted Pellegrini and he gave us what we wanted, that's not true. That's not what happened. Unfortunately, we've got a body of evidence that can back it up. And it's almost, we did want a good manager and a world-class manager and a manager to take us forward, but not that one. Not one that has been in retirement, not one that most of us thought was dodgy. We did want a director of football, but not any director of football. Not one who really had a dubious record. We wanted Damien Comolli or Frank Arneson or somebody like this. This is the sort of person that we wanted. And it's almost a case of him. He's blamed Pellegrini, he's blamed Moyes, and then he blamed us as fans by saying, well, they wanted that. Well, no, we didn't. That lacks any sort of detail whatsoever. It's ridiculous, really.
What we don't want from a director of football, though, is the manager to pick him. I can confirm, I literally saw zero fan say, I would like us to get a manager in and let the manager pick the director of football. It doesn't happen. Football clubs don't do that for a particular reason, because it's just stupid. Why you would do it, I do not know. And it backfired. But he even contradicted all this. But do you know when he said the fans wanted a top-class manager and a director of football? So what's David Moyes then? Not a top-class manager.
Oh, no, he said so we've gone back to grassroots. Yeah. He said what on earth has David Moyes got to do with grassroots? British, yes. Fine. Grassroots, what?
But it was almost like saying David Moyes isn't a top-class manager.
He's a bloke from the park, grassroots. We plucked him off the park. He's delivering vegetables.
But the thing is, it just made no sense when he said that. But nobody wanted. I say nobody wanted Pellegrini. Maybe even some, but I never seen anyone. But the worst thing is, if you've genuinely done what the fans wanted, let's say you have the fans have said we want this and we want that. You've gone, yeah, right. Listen, I think you can listen to the fans for feedback on the flavour of crisps in the kiosk available at half time. I think you can maybe listen to us on the design of the football shirts, perhaps. But you certainly don't listen to the fan base over appointing a manager or buying players. You don't listen to football fans about how you're going to build your team or what you get in. You don't say to the fans, here, we need a new head of media. Anyone out there you think we should get, oh yeah, fake Carlton Cole, let's get fake Carlton Cole. Oh yeah, we'll hire fake Carlton Cole. There you come, mate, the fans want you. It's not a thing. I mean, to be fair, it would be fun if fake Carlton Cole went in over there. But my point is, you can't just say we listen to the fans. You shouldn't listen. It's worse if you did listen to the fans. That's even worse, in my opinion. That means you're not even in charge. You're not even managing the club in the way that it should be run. You should be making decisions, not letting the fan base decide who's the manager and who's not the manager. It just made no sense at all. And then when you said, oh yeah, we tried the top class route, we're going down a different route now, we've got the British manager, and I thought, so what's... You just say Moyes isn't top class. You've just gone and got him for what? Because he's British and cheap. I just thought, you just stop. Dave, stop. And then when he said about, how Pellegrini spent all the money, he didn't quite word it like that. He basically said Pellegrini's transfers haven't worked out. It didn't go right. But then he went on to say Felipe Anderson, Yarmolenko, we'd all get into non-top six sides and stuff. Hang on a minute, these are Pellegrini's signings. You're now saying are good enough and we don't need to improve the squad because we've got really good players there. And he was listing Pellegrini's players. And I thought, you've just told us they're rubbish. Now you're telling us we can rely on them for the coming season. It doesn't really make sense. And he also said, oh yeah, Pellegrini brought all the players in, but I chose Fabianski and Diop. That was my players. I got involved and brought them in. But that was like 30 million. Pellegrini spent 100 million of it. Pellegrini's reign was 100 million that summer. David Sullivan spent a third of it. So you can't then blame Pellegrini for the spending when you're... If I said to you, look, here's a tenner, go down the shop and get whatever you want, but you've got to get me a meal deal for £3. And then you're going to come back and a week later say, you spent a tenner last week. Well, yeah, but you spent £3 of it. Well, I don't know. The whole thing, every time he spoke, I was like, you could have had a list of stuff to throw back at him immediately. It would have been easy to take him apart in that interview.
Well, I felt it was the double meaning behind everything. And it was quite clear. It was just really transparent, Geo. And I think he thinks he's being crafty. I think he thinks he's being... I think he thinks he's covering himself well, and certainly covering himself well, and thinks that we can't see through it. So when he says he picks Fabianski, what he's really saying is, I didn't buy Roberto. I can see what you're doing. It's absolutely ridiculous. And by him saying that the fans wanted him, he knows it's not true, but he's trying to put something on us, but we're not so stupid enough to take it. And we all knew what was happening throughout that interview. So it was when he was talking about Tarkowski. He would probably say, I was just asked a question, I was answering it. No, you were preparing us through the media and trying to prepare David Moyes for the fact that you're not going to get him. That was what was happening. We all know what was going on. Or even if he does it, he doesn't want to buy him. What he's doing is he's saying, I don't want to buy this guy. We can all see through it. And what he was doing towards the end was just preparing us for bad news. Because once he'd done blaming everybody else, he then went on to try and get the old violin out and try and play for sympathy, which is, we don't have any money, we're suffering, and I'm depressed. And I was a little bit. I want self-awareness there. I don't want the chairman of the football club, a very, very rich man, at times like this, when we've just had, unofficially, the news we're not going back to football. So they've taken our money. And I understand that. And it's, in many respects, is fine. I've given the 30% over. I didn't expect to go back this year anyway. But they've just taken our money. What part of him isn't thinking, actually, I won't say I'm depressed, because there's going to be a lot of people who are struggling at the moment. They can't go back to football. They've probably lost their jobs. I'm a billionaire. I'm the man in charge. Even if I am feeling a little bit down the dumps, I'm going to put on a brave face. But to say I'm depressed, and you just think, well, hold on, what about everybody else? You're the man meant to be steering the ship. Look at the state this football club's in. And he was asking everybody to feel sorry for him in many respects, whilst preparing us for bad news, basically saying, well, you know what, we might not be able to bring anyone in. And the team's really good, actually, because, look, we played, and I thought we played well against Arsenal. But it was almost like he was using that as the blueprint for why we'll stay up. Well, hold on a second. We played well in a game of football. But let's not suggest for a moment that we don't need any more players.
Yeah, we also played crap against Newcastle.
Oh yeah, but he said we really don't know why the players didn't turn up that day. They're probably the ones that Pellegrini signed. That's why, David. That's probably why they didn't turn up that day.
I got angry when he mentioned that, because he says, post-lockdown, we only lost 1 game in 7. I thought I knew he was going to say this. I knew he was going to look at the post-lockdown and say, see, you're fine, you don't need any players. You're capable, on you go. What amused me, he told the world we've got 40 million to spend. Because he said, you've got 400 million and you spend the 10% on a defender, you do that. But then later on he said, but we're not going to spend all our transfer budget on one player. Now, you just told everyone we've got 40 mil. You're literally negotiating with Burnley right now. Now, when I say negotiating, it's quite clear that David Sullivan is putting in offers he hopes is rejected. So you can say to the manager, look, I'm putting bids in, but they're not accepting it. But the latest rumours was we put in a £30 million bid with 5 million add-ons, right? So that's our bid. Let's just hypothetically say that's the current bid in for Tarkowski. David Sullivan just told Burnley we've actually got 40 million to spend. So why would Burnley accept an offer of 35 million? That's like you coming around my house. You say, how much is your telly? I'll say £500, because their asking price is 50 million. I say 500. You say, would you take £350? And me going, well, let me think about it. And then you turn around to someone in your shot saying, I've actually got 400 quid in my wallet, but I was hoping to keep that other 50. Now, suddenly that TV is 400.
Well, there's also something else to add to your analogy there. But then you also hear off somebody else that says, actually, that bloke bought a telly off me about a year ago and he still hasn't paid me. He said he'd pay me in instalments. Everyone's been hassling to pay it back, but he won't pay. I don't know why anyone would accept any deal off West Ham at the moment, because quite frankly, not only do we haggle, quite possibly we also don't pay.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's good though. One thing that's good. He said that we've got 8 wingers. I can't remember who quoted that a week or two ago when Diangana got sold. There was a reporter that used that exact quote. I think it might have been The Athletic, but I could be wrong. That reporter is now verified, if you like, for David Sullivan news, because David Sullivan's literally just gone and said the same thing word for word. So that reporter now can say, hang on a minute, now it's clear where I get my news from. So mental note to everybody going forward, keep an eye on that person, because their transfer news is legit.
But I actually thought they said 7. That when I listened to it, I laughed. I felt he'd added 1 on. Wait, why not?
No, I said 8, but the worst thing is, he said, we've got 8. We don't, but let's just say we had, right? Let's go along with David Sullivan for 1 second. We've got 8 wingers. Prior to selling Diangana, we had 9. Why do we have 9 wingers? This is why I would have said to David Sullivan, he said, we've got 8 wingers. I say, why have you still got 8 then? Get rid of 3 more. You don't need 8 wingers. We don't have 8 wingers. We've maybe got 8 players that can play on the wing, should they be required. We know who they are. Antonio, Yarmolenko, Anderson, Lanzini, Fornals, Snodgrass. They can all do a job on the wing.
But the Snodgrass comment here. the Snodgrass comment I thought was brilliant, because that's the first example he gave when he said we got 8 wingers. He said we got Robert Snodgrass. Oh, he scored a fantastic goal.
Playing holding midfield.
Yeah,
because there's no midfielders.
It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, who he classes as wingers? Yeah, he's going to start classing Snodgrass and Fornals and players like that as wingers. Then you could do that. You could do that for anything. If you're just going to start swapping people around, you can start calling this a D up a centre forward if you want. Why not?
The Snodgrass comment amused me because he literally did a newspaper article or whatever saying my son's begged me not to sign him. And now he's on the...
What a great winger he is.
Now he's on the thing saying, oh yeah, he's a superb player, him. There's literally... Snodgrass literally called you out on Twitter 2 or 3 years ago by saying, thanks for the support, Mr. Chairman. And now you're here giving it the big one about Robert Snodgrass, the player that you mugged off publicly. The guy is just... He's unbelievably out of touch with himself. That's the worrying thing. He's not even out of touch with what we, the supporters, are saying. He's out of touch with what he said a year ago and 2 years ago. And it's very easy to catch him out now. It's embarrassingly easy. And I think if someone was to sit him down and actually have a one-on-one conversation and just show him where he's messing up, if you like, where all these contradictions, he'd either be surprised or he'd try and blag it. I think he would do the blagging thing. But I do wonder if the penny might drop if somebody would just sit down and just explain to him. Because my worry is he doesn't have someone like that around him. He's got what you would call yes people. Too afraid to say to him, Dave, mate, you're not doing a good enough job here. He goes on TalkSport and stuff as if to say, I don't know why the fans are upset. What did he say? Oh, if I don't bring in players, fans will be unhappy. If I bring in the wrong players, the fans will be unhappy. He was alluding to that, to say they'll never be happy, so I'm not going to spend money because they're just going to be unhappy anyway. I would have missed anything from that thing.
Well, no, it's not. I think the thing is, you've got to, again, take into context with Jim White, because Jim White thought he was asking him tough questions. Jim White seems to think he's Jeremy Paxman. Quite frankly, Jim White's method of questioning makes Philip Schofield look tough. I mean, it was just flimsy, and he kept on saying it. He almost trying to convince himself, Jim White, I'm asking the tough questions, and I promised the fans I'd put him on the spot. This is what he was saying afterwards once the phone call had finished or whatever. But no, it's useless. It's as useless as Moose's interview. And you cannot be impartial. You cannot carry journalistic integrity if you've not done your research, you're not ready with the hard questions to ask. And I listen to that, not just that show, I have TalkSport on the radio when I'm driving, right? There are so many West Ham fans who have phoned up and want to talk about the promises that they made and the pledges and why we are not where we're supposed to be. And those are the questions that Jim White refuses to ask. And even if he did get an answer, he wouldn't nail him down. He wouldn't turn around and say, no, that's not an adequate answer. Look, I have people phoning up this radio station every single week, proper West Ham fans who've gone for years, who want to know the answers to these questions. He is a weak and useless interviewer. He might be a decent enough front man on transfer deadline day when he's got nothing. He's only got to link the news stories coming in with his yellow tie on and all the rest of it. As an anchor man, he's probably fine. As a serious journalist, you are 20 times better than him when you do your interviews and you ask good questions, tough questions. There's a balance. You don't want to pee people off so much that they run off, but you want to keep them there. He doesn't get anywhere near. He hasn't got any idea. It's ridiculous.
To be fair, I can't believe I'm going to defend Jim White here. Jim White only got that interview in return for not off asking any tough questions. Those questions would have been pre-approved. They were all... He'd answer, and then he would just ask a question regardless of what the answer was. It wasn't like, oh, let me pick you up on that and carry on. There was no conversation. It was a Q&A. There was no conversation. It should have been a conversation. Let Sullivan speak and sit back and listen to what he says and start picking apart what he's just said bit by bit. And eventually, you'll have him tied up in a knot by the end of it. But it was very much, let's talk about A, B, C, and D, and we won't interlock whining them together. The fact is, he was doing this whole... but David, the fans are going to want you to spend the money. And it was like... In his head, he was saying, oh, what are you going to do? You need to get players in. But it doesn't come across like that. Honestly, if Jim White interviewed Adam Johnson after he was touching kids, Adam Johnson would have been outside of primary school the next week. He would have got off with it scot-free. He would have been. He would have been back down to Tesco getting Haribo after the interview, straight after the interview, you've been down Tesco getting more Haribo and stuff. It's just ridiculous. Maybe a bad example.
I'll tell you what I will say about Jim White, though, as well. Often they have other people on there. So they've had Barry Hearn on there before, and one of the guys they have on relatively frequently is the Derby chairman. Can't remember his name. And the reason they have him on is because he's quite creative with his financing. He looks at the rules, the Football League rules, and he sort of changed them a little bit. So for instance, he sold the stadium. He saw a loophole. I think he sold the stadium to himself, and then put that money back in and bought players with it. And there's other things he's doing as well. There's something, without boring you, totally. If you buy a player on a 5-year contract and he's worth 5 million, when there's 4 years left on his contract, he's worth 4 million, and then 3 years worth 3 million. That's what it's like on a balance sheet. He's rearranged it so it looks like more, so he can borrow more money. He's been very, very creative, and a lot of the Football League think he's a naughty boy. Now, whenever he has been on to be interviewed, Jim White introduces the interview, and then what he says is, Simon Jordan, Simon, you go for it. And what happens is Simon Jordan grills him, because Simon Jordan thinks quick, speaks quickly, has an experience of being a chairman, and knows his stuff. And every other person that comes on, Simon Jordan's allowed to grill them. That's the premise of the show. And I found it absolutely amazing that, oh no, it was just Jim White. Well, conveniently, the conversation had just happened just outside, because that would have been totally ruled out, because I would love to have seen Simon Jordan, former chairman of Crystal Palace, and somebody who has been honest enough and wise enough to ask the correct questions, didn't get a chance to ask David Sullivan any questions. I think that was quite telling, and shows to what extent TalkSport will try and manipulate the story that we're all going to hear.
Yeah, right. Have you got anything you would like to talk about the TalkSport interview? Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Right, okay. We've got quite a lot of questions to get through tonight, so we're going to start whizzing through them. That's the only topic we're going to just cover tonight, because it's quite a big one. We knew it was quite a big one, so let's rock and roll on to the questions. I've lost it. Right, here we go. And just to add, we contacted David Sullvivan ourselves earlier today after the interview to ask if he would do a follow-up interview. He declined, which is expected. We weren't trying to represent the fan base, so that was just have a little chat with Geo Gonzo, really, which he declined. Right, Woody, Alan, Hammers fan. Alan! He says, who is a better winger? Is it Bowen, the up-and-coming youngster who works hard and looks great on the ball but should get more goals? Or is it Yarmolenko, the injury-prone player who doesn't track back but has a superb goal and assist stats?
Well, Alan, it's clearly Robert Snodgrass from what I heard today. Unfortunately, we are blessed with numerous ones to choose from. The better winger, I think the better winger is Yarmolenko. I think the better support forward is probably Bowen. It is definitely Bowen. I feel Bowen is versatile and can play with a number of positions. I look at Yarmolenko and think, I don't even want you moved to the left wing. I want you just to play there. I know Gio thinks differently and feels he could play as centre forward and whatnot, but I do look at Yarmolenko and think, no, he's a winger, and that's where I like him to play. It's almost like he's studied the craft of just playing there. But I would always start Bowen, because I think Bowen has just got so many strings to his bow. He is such a hard worker, and I do think he's got excellent technique. I just think he offers more all round during the game, and probably gets in centre forward position a little bit more.
I think Bowen's the better winger, because I think you've got to do the tracking back as a winger, and Bowen does that. Yarmolenko doesn't. But I think Yarmolenko's the better player. I think Yarmolenko is the better attacker, if you like. But the question was better winger. I think I would go for Jared Bowen. Mark Dawn says, was it right to remove David Moyes from London Stadium last night, given he showed no symptoms of making a strategic substitution? I like it. Yeah, they should have removed him, but they should only have removed him on the 78th minute. Dean Marr says, so we played poor against Newcastle, really well against Charlton, unlucky to lose against Arsenal. Last night looked great against Hull. If we could sneak a result against Wolves, do you think we could have a good season, which means no relegation battle, even if we don't sign any new players?
I think we could have a fair season. I think I've not succumbed to the absolute belief that we're going to get relegated yet. You know, far from it. I do think we have a half-decent team, but there's so much of it In fact, more important than the result against Wolves is what's happening at the club at the moment, because there does seem to be. We know there's disharmony between the fans and the club, but the other thing I got from that interview as well, I started to think, well, hold on, I think there might be some disharmony between the manager and the owner. And there's a lot, if there's disharmony between the players and the owners and the fans and the owners, the manager and the owners, that's a massive cloud over the club. And I think we need to really sort that out. I think if we can get some harmony amongst the club, I think we can have a fair season. But when I say a fair season, I mean finish 13th or 14th or something.
I think we could stay up. I think I don't know. I'd be a bit nervous because no new signings means we are one injury to 3 or 4 players away from having a scary time. An injury to Ogbonna or an injury to Declan Rice, I would not fancy that at all. And to be honest with you, I put in Michail Antonio as well. I wouldn't want to see an injury to Antonio neither. Those 3 players, if any of them get injured, I would panic a little bit, to be honest with you. I know you can say that for loads of other teams. What would Villa do if Jack Grealish got injured, so on and so forth. But it would be a bit risky going into the season with this squad, I think. So, could we have one? Yes. Would I be confident? No. I think almost in a weird way, a win against Wolves could actually be a bad thing for David Moyes long term, because David Sullivan's going to be justified in what he said on the show tonight, which is we've got a good team there, we've got a good squad there. And David Sullivan's also alluded to the fact that we just might not buy any players. I think a win against Wolves would probably strengthen his idea that we don't actually really need anyone. Don't want to see us get beat, obviously, but I just think there could be repercussions from a win, which is a bit bonkers, really.
Well, just before you go, COVID's going to play a massive part. Yesterday was the start, and we know that Leyton Orient had 18 players test positive. There are going to be games coming up quite soon where teams lose 5 or 6 of their first team. So it is going to be really interesting to see how that plays out and who comes in and who covers for them. I think it's going to have a big impact on results. I think you might see a slightly skewed, some skewed league positions depending on time. And some teams are going to be unlucky with this.
Yeah, that's a good example. I mean, I know our players got tested immediately after the game last night, but by the sounds of it, they're not going to get the results back till possibly tomorrow. So for all we know, we could be missing another 2 or 3 players ahead of Sunday's game. So Diop's out already. That's our second best centre-back out the game. Could be more. We'll soon find out. Mikey John, given the 2 good cup performances, would you bring any of these players into the team now?
I would. I'd bring Haller in. I really would. I would start Lanzini as well in place of Fornals if we're playing that same system. Certainly. Aside from that, I don't think you can drop too many players. But Diop ain't playing. We know that because Geo just alluded to it. So that's got to be dealt with. But surely Balbuena will just pop in there. But I'd like to see. Look, for the reasons I just stated, because of COVID, there's going to be a lot of players getting their chances. There's going to be players featuring in first team football this season for all clubs that never thought they'd have a chance. So let's see what happens. We'll know when we're doing a Wolves preview tomorrow. We may well know a little bit more. We're doing that about 8 o'clock tomorrow or something. We'll know a little bit more by then. Maybe give you a bit more information.
I think I'd like to see 1 or 2 changes ahead of the next game. Because while we played well against Arsenal, I do think you've got to make a couple of changes after a defeat to suggest that players playing well is good, but playing well and getting no points isn't good. Therefore, I'm making a tweak here and there. First priority at half time: toilet or beer?
I'd send Tony for the beer and I go to the toilet.
Depends if I need a pee or not. If I don't need a pee, then I'm alright. But if I do need a pee, I'll go to the toilet first. Because when the second half of the kick off, if you've got half a pint, you can get rid of it quick. If you need a pee, you can't speed that up. You still got to do the queuing thing. So I like to get the toilet thing over and done with, and then be restricted with my time by drinking the beer. Jordan, WHU, Jordan says the next youth player you see really stepping it up and making it into a regular first team player within the next couple of seasons.
I think that's so tough, but particularly bearing in mind I've done a video on the lad today, haven't I? So Ashby seems all the rage at the moment, but I do think there's enough young players there that it could be Elise, it could be Batista, it could be. I would hope to be Nathan Holland if I had to choose one, because I think it's his time. It really is. I want him to do. Johnson. There's so many. But I like this Kai Corbett looks a real player. I can't remember the geezer's name. Begins with D. Forward.
Diallo.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he's another one. Look, we have some talented youngsters. This could be a really good time, and Coventry's looked good when I've seen him. Happy times. We're going to see some of them this season.
Yeah, I don't know if Cullen counts. I mean, he's not really young anymore, but...
No, he's about my age.
I was trying to take the easy route out of that. To be honest with you, I don't know. It depends on... It's difficult to pick an attacking midfielder because there's so much competition ahead of them, whereas I think there's an opportunity perhaps for a centre-back. If we're playing 3 centre-backs this season... We've already lost Diop, so that means we know the back three is going to be Creswell, Balbuena, and Bona. That means if there's an injury to centre-back on Sunday during the game, there's a good chance a youngster is coming off the bench and going to have to get in there, and I think it'll be Elise. And I'm going to say that he's the next player to break through. I think he's very good. Because we've got the 3 centre-backs, assuming Moyes sticks with this formation going forward, there's opportunities for someone to get into that starting 11, unless we go and buy 1, maybe even 2 more before the end of the window. However, going by the chairman's comments earlier, I'd say that's somewhat unlikely. Adam says, are you concerned about the club testing protocols given that 3 members of the squad found out less than an hour before kickoff that they had a positive test?
No, it means the testing's working. That's not... They would have been tested before. That's just a test takes how long a test takes until they can get it down to the hour tests and stuff like that. They can only work with the test that they purchase. The club have no. The club are not testing. The club aren't the laboratory. The club has no control on how quickly those tests come back. So it's not like the club decided an hour before kickoff to get everyone tested. They were tested 2 days before that. The club have no control over that. We've got a lot of things to be annoyed about at the club with. Testing ain't one of them.
Yeah, I would also say it's down to the league, and it is the league protocol. I was surprised, though, to be fair. The one thing I was surprised at when Sullivan did his interview, he said that they only get tested once a week now, and the Championship players don't get tested. That was a bit like an eye opener.
The Championship.
League One.
However, they get tested for temperature every single day. They only. I think they get one. They get one antibody test and they get one COVID test. So, how technically how many COVID tests? Well, 1. But really, how many times are they health tested? Well, every day,
but as we've seen with Moyes, Diop and Cullen, they never had the temperature. They just had a sore tickly throat. I mean, Sullivan told us Moyes was fine, but he had a sore throat all week, so he wasn't really fine then, was he? I get it, he just missed it and stuff, but I'm not concerned. At the end of the day, I think the players are making a big sacrifice. I could be wrong, I believe once they've been tested, I think the players are in the hotel until the game, aren't they? I don't think they get to go home.
Well, it's not like once a week is terrible because you should be having 7 a week. The most you could have is 2. Because it's going to take you just over 2 days to get those results back anyway. So, what you're going to do, you're probably going to have one 3 days later.
They used to get 3 in pre-season. They used to get 3 a week in pre-season. Sullivan told us earlier.
Well, it's pointless.
Yeah, he said in pre-season they got 3 a week, and now it's only 1 a week.
Yeah, well, I'd say if it's taking close to 50, 60 hours for the results to come through, you've got to wait anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, that's assuming David Sullivan actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to COVID testing. Not convinced he's not sure. Pellegrini's fault. Vinny says, we were in a relegation battle last season as we had a group of terrible players who were advertised as good ones. Moyes dropped a chunk of these players and we stayed up. Many fans now like to see these players back in the team. Why do you think this is? It's the same to us, Vinny. With Thalia. I'm paranoid.
I think you are paranoid.
I'm not really.
It's pretty aimed at everyone. I think 2 reasons. Number 1 is desperation. Maybe 3. Desperation, lack of choice. Number 2, and the 3rd reason is we've seen them play well in the cup, so we hope there might be a nugget there. I think you've also got to deal with the reality of the situation, where I'm not entirely sure you'd find too many West Ham fans who would argue that we should retain Felipe Anderson. But I think those same West Ham fans who would see him gone are very aware of the situation we find ourselves in, is that we can't sell Felipe Anderson because nobody buy him. So with that in mind, I think people are probably hoping for the best and hoping we can get a tune out of him. I don't think it's any more than that. I don't think anybody's suggesting for instance, that any of these players that were crap should come in ahead of Souček or any of the guys that came in and did well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just desperation. I think it's also belief that the players have ability, whether they're consistent or not, or whether they just show up or not. I mean, I don't believe Anderson and Lanzini and stuff. The players and Sebastian Haller, the players are alluding to, they're not poor players. They're just not playing well at West Ham. And I think you do cling to hope that they will come good and stuff. But it's also it's a new season now, though. I think that's important, and I think it's not quite clean slate for everyone. But I do think it's like almost another chance. Now, some players are on their second chance, some players are on their fourth chance. But I do think when it comes to a new season, you're almost willing to give the players a bit of a fresh start and say, right, come on, then you've had the time off, you've had your summer, not quite this year, but let's go again. Let's see a bit more from you this season. So I don't know. I get his point, though. I've seen some people, when you do the lineups or whatever, you see it on social media and people aren't including Antonio. I'm not Antonio's biggest fan, but I'm surprised at that because he should really be the first name on the team sheet, to be honest with you. Given his form at post-lockdown and into the season again. Wasn't amazing against Newcastle, but against Arsenal he got his goal. So it's difficult to leave him out for Sunday. But I do also think the League Cup plays a part now. A lot of people want to see players back in because of what they did against Charlton and what they've done against Hull. People now want to see Yarmolenko and Haller and Lanzini because of their good performances. I understand both sides of the coin here. I can see Vinny's argument, but I can also see why fans are enthusiastic again. Well, I'm going to take one or two from YouTube pre-match. However, in the live chat, you've got any questions, get them in because we're running on time tonight. We're going to have to get off at a decent time tonight, so I don't want to miss the live chat. So if you're in the live chat, get your questions in now and I'll make sure I focus on them for the next 10-15 minutes. However, pre-show comments on YouTube. If Haller starts, this is from Greg Hughesy, if Haller starts, who are you having either side? It's difficult as Bowen has pace and looks a class act, but I don't see how you can leave out Yarmolenko.
Well, I would leave out Yarmolenko, actually, because of just for the reasons I said earlier, Greg. I just don't want to see him on the left. From what I've seen, it's not the same player. I would still start Bowen and I would start Antonio on the left there, actually. Blessed with choice, ridiculously, considering the perilous position we find ourselves in. Yeah, that would be my choice.
Probably be Bowen and Antonio for me as well. I think Antonio picks himself. It's then a case of who else are you picking, and I think it would be Jared Bowen. Although I think Bowen's under pressure. I do think Bowen's under pressure. He needs a good performance against Wolves. Otherwise, I think the temptation to change him may be there. Well, he's not showing up all season yet, has he? So we're going to have to try something a little bit different. And while he played well post-lockdown, what did he get? A couple of assists. I don't think he scored, did he?
No, he got some decent assists. Yeah. Moyes will not drop Bowen.
No, because he works hard.
I'm gonna put that out there now, and I suspect Moyes will not drop Bowen at all ever.
But at some point, if Yarmolenko's forcing his way in, that's the guy that's probably naturally gonna be the one to miss out. I know Fornals is probably in the chopping block too, but Fornals works harder than Bowen in my opinion. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. For cheesy, jam, marmalade, chocolate spread, or Marmite on toast. Rate them 1 to 4 in order of preference.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Marmite would be number 1. I had that today, though, actually. Jam would be my next one. Then what's the others?
Marmalade and chocolate spread.
Marmalade, then chocolate spread. Chocolate spread on toast. Come along.
Jam first. I love a bit of jam. Then I'm going to go chocolate spread because I don't like the other two. So marmalade third. To be fair, I say Marmite. Marmite's one of that things. I've never tried it. I've just assumed I won't like it.
We've all got things like that.
What do you assume you don't like? You've never tried it, but if someone says, do you want this? You go, no, I don't like it. Although you've never actually tried it.
Prawns.
Oh, yeah, that's mine as well. I like prawn cocktail crisps. That's as far as it goes.
Just look at... Why would anyone like a prawn? Looks disgusting.
My weird one.
I've smelt it. I've smelt it. I've made up my mind I don't like it. I look at it and... Ugh, no, I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that. Apparently I did eat it once. Actually, when I was a kid, I didn't know. I thought scampi was little bits of cod. And I know we were in the Dick Turpin pub in Ilford, in Aldborough Hatch, when I was a kid, and I had scampi and chips. But I thought it was. I was a kid. I didn't know it was covered in baked beans and all the rest of it. But yeah, I was told. It's only years later I worked out the scampi was prawn. So obviously delayed by about 20 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, banana's my thing. I've never tried a banana. I've just
wow.
That's
the biggest revelation we've ever had on Hammers Chat. I think that is it. That don't get any bigger than that as an announcement.
I'm not keen on the smell of it, but I just look at it and I know I will not like the texture. It looks squidgy. It looks squishy.
Well, it changes depending on how old the banana is.
Mushy.
Yeah, I mean, a not quite ripe banana is not mushy at all. Yeah, it's very good on a sort of brownie on the outside. Yeah, you certainly. I don't think you'd like that.
No, it's just.
Never had a banana.
No, I've never tried a banana. I think also banana tasting stuff I'm not really keen on if I've ever had one. But the banana itself, I've never tried a banana. I just look at it. I won't like that.
Okay, so you never had a banoffee pie?
No. Don't think so.
That's some good stuff. Banoffee pie is serious dessert.
Banana's not for me because of the texture. I look at it and I just say, no, I'll stick to my pink lady apples, thank you. Ryan Porteus says, if you could ask David Sullivan one question other than when are you leaving, what would you ask?
I'd ask if he's ever tasted a banana.
I wonder if he's tasted a barbecue pizza.
He looks like a wise man. I doubt he's ever done that. If I could ask him one question,
Indian or Chinese?
Yeah. I would actually ask him, what did David Sullivan say in the phone call when he phoned you up to ask you back the second time? I'd quite like to know. I'd like to have been a fly on the wall then, actually.
I don't know if I would ask him, actually. Maybe I would ask him to list every player he has signed. All of them. Just for clarity and my own amusement. I would like to know the list of every single one over his tenure, even the really crap ones that never made an appearance. Every player David Sullivan is responsible for.
Sullivan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought he asked. Okay.
Yeah, Sullivan.
I thought he asked David Moyes.
No, it was Sullivan, but it's alright. I'll let you go along with it. I thought it was more interesting question, to be fair. So anyway, that's my question for Sullivan. Christopher Hall, how many of the team would have to get COVID for the game versus Wolves to be off? I don't actually know the answer. Is it still 14 fit players?
I guess it would. It all depends on when it's announced. So if we had lots announced today, then we can still really put a squad together. If it's the trouble is with your match day squad at the moment, but pre-COVID, the whole squad would travel with the team. So you'd have your match day squad and your substitutes, but actually if somebody got injured, there'll be a whole load of other people who travelled on the coach. Now it's only the players and the people on the bench that are there. So if it's a match day, I guess at the moment you can't have an adequate number on the bench. Pre-match day, well, as long as you can get 17, 18 players together, it's not going to matter.
They shouldn't get the results on a match day, though, should they? Maybe they get them a bit. They should at least get them a bit earlier. I mean, I'd like to think it was just a one-off because it was like Tuesday night and it was an evening kick-off kind of thing.
You may be right. I'd
be a bit disappointed if you were playing at 3 p.m. on Saturday and you got the results through at 2 p.m. on Saturday. I think, hang on, this is just badly organised now. I understand the midweek ones are a bit different because just by chance that's when you're playing. But the weekend games, I'd be shocked if they get the results that would interrupt a matchday squad on a Saturday or a Sunday. The Monday ones, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they are well down on, because I know that from the hospital and from my missus and that they haven't got an awful lot of tests at the moment. So maybe that's why. And I know the Premier League are paying for their own tests. But in terms of bear in mind, everyone wants them. They can only produce so many, can't they, at the moment? So if everyone's using them, crikey, there's going to be a lot of tests needed, and it's only going to get more. So I would actually expect testing to get a little bit less because everyone's got to get them from somewhere.
Yeah, Conor Matthews, based on what you've seen and heard from the club so far, do you think David Moyes will be in charge next season?
I don't. I'm really glad. I thought so much was being prepared today, so badly and so transparently, and maybe I didn't speak enough about it earlier. I really got the impression that there was friction between David Moyes and Sullivan. And then, actually, something's changed since then. Burnley have bid for a couple of players after I had this thought, and I mean today. And I looked at the situation with Sean Dyche as well, and I thought, I just wonder if at some point, quite soon, if he gets rid of David Moyes and hires Sean Dyche. I don't know. I've no grounds for that, but my hunch is that David Moyes won't be.
I'm not sure. If you asked me before today, I would say yes. I would say, yeah, I think Moyes will keep us up. I think that's enough to satisfy David Sullivan, and therefore we move along. And after the Diangana sale, I was a bit worried that Moyes was a bit of a yes man, truth be told. And to an extent, I still am. I mean, clearly in the background, he's saying no to David Silva's targets, which would go against the whole yes man thing. However, he's still the manager of the club after Diangana was sold, and but after tonight, Sullivan implied one signing could create, in his own words, a civil war at West Ham United. Sullivan's described it as a potential civil war himself. So I would insinuate that the relationship is already, as you said, heated, if you like. They've got a disagreement, but I did think. This is my own conclusion here. This is nothing. But I did think it was convenient he went on TalkSport today, not because of the win last night, because David Moyes has tested positive for COVID. Moyes has to stay at home for 2 weeks. When Moyes comes back, the transfer window is shut. Sullivan will not have to see his manager face to face again until the window is shut. And I thought when Sullivan went on and done his thing today, I thought maybe this is just a coincidence. Maybe this was arranged yesterday and this was always going to happen. But bearing in mind, it wasn't advertised until an hour before he went on air, which suggests it was arranged this morning. And I just thought, you sneaky little bugger here, because your manager cannot come and confront you about this conversation. Well, he can ring you up and have it over the phone, but you will not have to deal with David Moyes face to face until once the window's shut. And I just thought that was a little bit underhand what he's done today. And he knows Moyes won't speak out against David Sullivan. He just won't do it. Moyes isn't going to be bringing up TalkSport and say, actually, I think you'll find I want 2 or 3 quality players, but that man keeps trying to give me all these rubbish players I don't want. I've never heard of them. And Sullivan said he's been watching 18 hours of videos every day or something. I mean, first of all, it's not videos, but I know he called it tapes. That's what he called it, didn't he?
Well, this is my theory of him and the old pornography business.
Yeah, he said, he's been watching.
He wasn't really up with the times.
Yeah, he's been watching 18 hours of tapes. I thought, he's probably trying to work out who these South American strikers are that you keep throwing at him. David Moyes is instead of
who's this Romario on this VHS? He looks
something
good.
Enio. Yeah, let's have a look at that one. For Shazy, what will it take for Moyes to be more proactive in making substitutions?
Is that Fo's second question?
Possibly, but he's a bit of a...
He is a very naughty boy, isn't he?
Well, he did ask a food question. We like food questions.
That is true. He's not going to change. He clearly has a belief, and he's going to stick to it. I've seen it too many times, not just in football. It happens in rugby as well. The current England coach at rugby, Eddie Jones, gets criticised for making substitutions, regardless of what's happening in the game. 65 minutes or 60 minutes, he changes 5 or 6 of the players. So the ex-England coach, Sir Clive Woodward, criticises him for that, because Clive Woodward thinks if you're playing well, don't change anything. This is his belief. He's not that you're basically, to get him to change, you have to persuade him that he's wrong. He doesn't think he's wrong. He thinks he's right.
Yeah, I think so as well. I like to think maybe if he had more of his own players on the bench, he would be inclined to use them. But at Everton, he still wasn't really like that on the front foot and stuff. I think for him to change, he would maybe have to gamble one game. He might have to do an early change one game, and then it has to work. So he might have to put Yarmolenko on the 60th minute. Yarmolenko goes and gets the winner in the 70th. Then he might think, okay, the next game, come the hour mark, if we're needing a goal, he might then say, Yarmolenko, come over here, mate. Let's get you on again early enough to see what you can do. I think he needs to get it right. And I think he puts Yarmolenko in the 60th minute and it goes wrong again, like it did against Arsenal. It just puts him off making subs again. The next game he's thinking, I remember last week I did a sub, and this week I'll just wait. The Arsenal result, because of the way it worked out, he won't be putting Yarmolenko on again with 20 minutes to go, whatever it was he did at the Emirates, and it backfired on him because he was at fault for the winner. So,
well, and there's your confirmation bias, which, as I say, I think we're all guilty of this. He suspects that bringing subs on is not a good thing to do. So actually, rather than getting the confirmation of Yarmolenko coming on against Chelsea and winning the game, he uses the confirmation of him coming on against Arsenal and losing the game. Two things, different results, but you'll go with the one which you suspected.
We've got a couple more questions, and we'll start wrapping this up. So if you're enjoying the video, please drop a like on the video and subscribe if you're around here. And there's a few people have asked this question. I was on Twitter earlier, and it's now creeped into the live chat here. Lanzini or Fornals? Now, there's no context given, so there's no which would you like to see start against Wolves. None of that. Just Lanzini or Fornals. So I guess they're trying to say is who's the better player.
Well, Lanzini's the better player, but we don't know the context, as you say, what they're asking. If you're asking who the better footballer is, it's Lanzini. But Fornals will be the answer to other questions out of the two.
I think Lanzini used to be the better player. I'm going to say Fornals is the better player now, but only because of circumstances such as Lanzini's injury. If you offered me 2015-16 Lanzini or Fornals today, I would have picked 2015-16 Lanzini, but we don't have that Lanzini currently. We've got the 2021 one, which is glimpses of the 15-16, but we're not sure if he's back, essentially. If he's back, then that's who I'm picking.
I suspect he is, which is why I'm saying that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he is yet. I need to see more than friendlies and cup games against League One sides.
To be convinced, yes, but to suspect, no. That's why. But I suspect. I suspect he is. I've got a feeling. I think. I heard some of the commentators said the other day, he might be going to play out in Saudi Arabia. Well, no, he's too good for that. He shouldn't be doing that. He should be playing in a competitive league. There's no doubt about that.
Final question is from Dean Marsh. He says, if by some miracle we go on to win the Carabao Cup, will that just concrete Sullivan, Gold and Brady at the club because they'll be able to say, look what we have done?
No, I don't think so. But I wouldn't. That would be a terrible thing to hear. I think that the glory of winning a cup would drown it out. But they'd be harping on about it for years and years and years, which you can understand. As myself and Geo have been talking about, though, it would be bittersweet for us West Ham fans because having waited many years to see West Ham in a well, I wouldn't see them in a cup final, but waiting them to win a cup, let's say. Us not being allowed in the ground would be terrible. Do you know how much I think sometimes we might? I was thinking about it today. I was thinking, how many people could I get in here to watch the game and legally?
I was thinking that until I saw Everton's lineup tonight. Everton were playing Fleetwood tonight. We obviously played a winner, and Everton put out a strong team. They had Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and all that. They've rolled out Lucas Dean at left back. They've rolled out.
Is it Tuesday?
Yeah.
Is it Tuesday again?
They've rolled out a lot of their first team tonight, Everton, which scared me a little bit. I thought, hang on, Ancelotti's not messing around here. Ancelotti's going for the cup this season. And this is Fleetwood. With the greatest of respect to Fleetwood, I'm sure he could have stuck with the likes of Moise Keane and got through tonight, but he didn't take it.
And they're playing now?
Yeah, it was 2-0 when we went live, so I'm going to assume Everton are comfortably into the next round, and that is our opponents in the Carabao Cup. One thing I mentioned, though, I forgot from the TalkSport. David Sullivan referred to last night's team as our reserve team. Just when he said that, Dave, mate, just call it something, but not the reserve team. Just maybe say Moy made a load of changes and we still won the game. Maybe say that, but he just said, we had the reserve team out. Oh no, you've just called them all reserve players. Anyways, anything else you'd like to add before we disappear?
No, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so. It's been a very, very interesting couple of days for West Ham. I mean, really has actually. In many respects, quite shocking. Really, that was. The build-up show yesterday was quite a shocking old time. I was disappointed they weren't ineligible due to shagging reasons. I think that the excuses that we came up with before were a lot more fun, a lot more entertaining than the reality. But I do think there's a lot. I feel we've not touched on an awful lot in this cup of tea, and the reason is because Sullivan's stolen the show in many respects. Because I think there's so much that we need to explore in terms of fans going back, in terms of how many players are going to be eligible. Yeah. We are just at the start. And it just goes to show in all of this, despite football, which I do think has handled in terms of safety, in terms of testing, in terms of filtering people out and social distancing, I feel football grounds and football clubs and training grounds have done well. But what this has proven, everyone catching it now, is actually it doesn't matter. If you have kids, or you know someone who's got kids, that's what's happening. Kids, basically, there's no two ways about it. The kids have gone back to school and now it's going again. So it doesn't matter what the football clubs do, they're all catching it. I think we've got a really, really interesting few weeks and months ahead.
I quite agree. Anyway, that's just it for us tonight. We're back tomorrow night with another live show called Talk West Ham. You may remember it from 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and even 2 years ago. It's the call-in show. You're in control. You ring us up. You pick what you want. It's basically Talk Sport, but for West Ham. But with maybe tougher questions, perhaps. It depends.
I'm going to get my yellow tie.
Yeah, you get your yellow tie out for that. Then we've got the preview coming up. We've got a chance for a roundup show coming out as well. And then, of course, we've got all the match day content on Sundays. So subscribe if you're new to the channel. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it. Myself and Gonzo, well, we'll see you tomorrow night.